And for those of you who are just joining, we're setting up in supported fish. So a tall block under your occiput, a flatter block at the bottom of your bra strap, and either a bolster over it if you like that, or a bolster under your knees if you like that. And if you don't have blocks or a bolster, then Supta Baddha Konasana or reclining butterfly, soles of your feet together, knees apart. Any or all of them will do the trick. So for anyone, again, just joining, for those of you that are in your position, just take a minute and soften in and relax. Make sure that you are comfortable. And if you are off balance, find a steady spot for your head, your occiput. Make sure that the block under your scapula and your bra strap is comfortable. And find your breath. And so I will leave the block demo over here for anyone who is just joining. You can also use a bolster, or you can put a bolster on top of it like that. And we are coming into what we call supported fish. So as we begin, in case there's new folks, I'm Jessie Mahoney and I'm a pediatrician. And I also do a lot of physician wellness, and actually I'll say wellness for anybody in the world who needs wellness, which is most of us these days. And this class is going to be a little different than my usual morning classes. It is going to be mindful yin/restorative, which many people affectionately who come to my retreats call it Pajama Yoga. The intention of yin and restorative is to soften your nervous system and unwind that fight or flight, which many of us across the country and the world are finding activated at this moment. And many in medicine, and particularly women in medicine, live in a constant state of fight or flight. And restorative yoga is intended to be nervous system yoga and unwinding. We call restorative sometimes conscious rest. So the invitation as you settle into supported fish is to have your heart space open, your chest open, palms open to the sky if possible, having a little bit of a stretch across your pecs and letting your heart shine forward and allowing yourself to sink in. Many people ask me what sinking in means, and it's the letting go of control that so many of us are always gripping and holding. Use each inhale to soften wherever you're holding. And exhale, let the exhale be longer than the inhale. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. And perhaps set your intention in this moment to let go and to soften in. And restorative yin pajama yoga, I do at my retreats because it's something that most of us don't get to do very often. We don't get to rest in truly restorative ways, where the intention is to restore, replete, rejuvenate, refill. And for many of us, it's very hard to soften in. If you find your mind wandering, come back to the breath. Breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Let it feel really good. Letting things begin to slow and begin to unwind. Whenever your mind begins to wander, come back to your breath. Come back to your body. Notice where there might still be gripping and send a breath there. Let the breath be that gift. Acknowledging that for right here, right now, it's okay to let go of that hypervigilance and holding tightly. There's no one to rescue, no one to save, nothing to fix, nothing to control. Your task is simply to rest, restore, relax, and let your nervous system operate at a different frequency. Come back to the breath. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. If you want to know more about restorative and yin yoga and how it works, there is a Mindful Healers podcast explaining it. So if that's a curiosity of yours, check it out. And for today, let yourself sink in and not worry about the how and the details and why it's working. Just enjoy the quiet, the calm. Notice the unwinding. Notice how you feel. Breathe in through your nose once again. Let the exhale be long and smooth. And as you rest, I wanted to share something I read occasionally, and I'm inspired to read it in the world now, both for Women Physicians Day and for the world as it is right now. And this is the author's note of a beautiful children's story that was written by Rachel Naomi Remen. The book is called The Birthday of the World, and it's a story about finding light in everyone and everything. And in this moment, that seems like a wonderful thing to focus on, the light in everyone and everything. And in her author's note, she says, I think that this story is a perfect story for our time. At this time in the history of things, it would be easy to be overwhelmed by despair, blinded by judgment, and so paralyzed by fear that we feel powerless to make a difference. But we are all each enough just as we are to make a difference. You are enough just as you are to heal the world. The birthday of the world is about healing the world one heart at a time. It is about seeing with your heart. If you see with your heart, you can heal the world. How do you see with your heart? Seeing with the heart is not something that we are taught. It is a capacity that we are born with. It is something we remember, but sometimes we forget how to see with our hearts as we grow older. Like your eyes, your heart is an organ of vision, a way of seeing. When you look at everyone and everything with your heart, you see things that you would not see if you only looked with your eyes. It's like the difference between seeing things in black and white and seeing things in color. When you remember and begin to see with your heart again, the world fills with color. You see the light that is hidden in everyone and everything. When you see with your heart, you notice things you have never noticed before. You can see below the surfaces of things, the appearances of things, and discover extraordinary things in ordinary people. When you see with your heart, you see what is hidden. You see the beginnings of things, the seeds that will one day become a mighty forest. When you see an acorn with your heart, you know that you are holding not a little woody thing, but a great tree in the palm of your hand. To see with the heart is to see the future. I see the light in you. You are enough, just as you are, to heal the world. Love, Dr. Rachel. And in this time, when it would be easy to be overwhelmed by despair and blinded by judgment and paralyzed by fear so that we feel powerless to make a difference, she reminds us that we are each enough just as we are. Recognizing that we can show up with that light within, that golden light coming from that heart space. And as you are here in your supported fish, your heart space is shining outward. Send a breath to the light in the heart space. And if your eyes are open, close them. And take a moment to see with your heart here in this safe cocoon, wherever you're practicing in this moment. Letting your heart see. When you see with your heart, it's a bit like moving forward from a place of love or kindness or compassion. Our heart sees below the surface of things. It's curious and creative. It's mindful. Recognizing that as healers and as humans, when we see with our heart, we can see extraordinary things in ordinary people. And the oak tree rather than the acorn. And the color rather than simply the black and white. How might that nourish you and nurture you as you step forward into the week ahead and the month ahead? Perhaps letting a little bit of light peek and shine out of that heart space, knowing that each and every one of you as healers has a tremendously compassionate and loving and healing heart. The human heart is wise. It cares for itself first with the coronary arteries, spends a lot of time in diastole refilling. It's steady, consistent, takes pauses every millisecond. Allowing yourself this evening some time to pause and to slow down, to refill and reset, and nourish and nurture that heart space. So perhaps you can move forward, seeing a little bit more with your heart and a little less with your eyes, a little less with fear, and a little more with love and curiosity. Maybe just then we will all be enough to heal the world. Taking in a big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Allow yourself another moment to really enjoy this moment where you are. Heart open, things beginning to soften. And if you are on the blocks or the bolster, roll off to one side and pause as gracefully as you can. And pause where you are. And we're going to come up to a seat for a moment. And sit, bring your feet, heels underneath your rear end. So you're sitting like you did when you were in school on your heels. If you need to sit on the bolster to protect your knees, do that. Or if you need a block between your rear end and your heels, do that. And you'll find yourself sitting up with a nice stretch in the front of the thighs. And allow yourself to drop right back in. Breathe in through your nose. and out through your mouth. And we'll here bring a hand to heart and another hand to top. We're going to practice for a moment the 4-7-8 breath, which we know helps us drop into that parasympathetic nervous system, activating it. So together with hand on heart, we'll breathe in for 4, hold for 7, and out for 8. And if you really don't like this one, try the box breathing, which is in for 4, hold for 4, out for 4, hold for 4. I will cue the 4-7-8, but you do what you prefer. Taking in a big, deep breath in and a clearing breath out. Excuse me. Breathe in for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. In for 4, hold for 7, out for 8. Take another breath, just a regular breath without counting. Notice how you feel. We'll lower hands and open eyes. Shrug your shoulders up to your ears, pinch your occiput into it, squeezing tight as you can. Exhale, let it melt. Notice how you feel. Drop your chin to chest. Enjoy the stretch. Bring your chin back to neutral. Gaze gently to the left and drop your chin. Bring your right hand and massage the neck on the right side for a moment. Release the hand, bring your chin back to neutral and switch to gaze to the right. Drop your chin. Massage the SCM on the left side. Spend a little time on anything tender. Release your hand, bring your chin back to neutral and back to center. We'll lift up off the block or the bolster if you're sitting on them. And I want to come into broken toe for just a moment here, a little bit of a release before we settle into much more release. You'll find yourself better able to settle in if you do a little bit of this first. The broken toes, tuck your toes underneath you, even get the baby toe out. Unless you have teeny tiny toes, you should be able to spread them out. And you'll lift up onto your knees and slowly drop your rear end to your heels. And you'll notice some intense sensations. Big breath in. Exhale, let it out. We'll do 2 more breaths here. Hands light on your thighs, noticing the intensity, the release. Let the exhale be a release. And 1 more big breath. Let it out. You'll come to hands and knees, bang your feet out. And bring your knees back. You'll open your knees wide. We're going to come into child's pose. I encourage you to grab a bolster and do a supported child's pose. You can bring the bolster between your knees and give it a hug and bring your head to one side. Some of you may wish to be up higher, and if you have a block, you can put that under your bolster, and that might feel more comfy. Allowing yourself to sink in, widen your knees as much as possible. If your rear end needs some support, you can put the blanket between your rear end and your calves or the bolster. And if you are someone who is a minimalist child's pose person like me, you don't need any bolsters, blocks, or supports. And you might find that putting your third eye on the floor is what feels best.
We'll be here for 10 breaths. Let them be long and smooth. Allow your hips to sink in. Let the darkness and the quiet sink in. Let each breath be a gift to every nook and cranny. The inhale bathing the cells and the exhale relaxing in. Notice if you need to readjust. If your head is turned to one side, switch sides. And wiggle fingers and toes so nothing falls asleep. Sink back in. Let the breath pour into the back of the ribs, into every intercostal space, to the front and back side of the heart. Let the exhale be a little longer than the inhale. Another tool to activate the parasympathetics. And if you find yourself resisting the softening, give yourself permission, allow it. One more breath here. And we'll slowly bring our hands back towards your knees, lifting up. And you'll swing your feet around. Come to a seat with your feet wide in a wide angle pose. We're going to come into a wide angle forward fold. Depending on your props, and restorative's a bit more tricky on Zoom because you don't know what people have. You can put a block with a bolster on top and fold forward this way. You can have lots of pillows. You can lean over a chair. You can also have a taller block if you want to lean forward less. Take a minute to find your ischial spines. Stack up your blankets, bolsters, whatever you have in front. You can also place your forearms on the bolster and place your forehead on the bolster. I find when the world is swirly, I like my head down pressing onto something. We'll be here for 5 breaths. Wiggle toes. And doing anything in the knees. You can wiggle your ankles too if you need. And drop back into stillness. If your back wants the tower taller, do that. Don't let yourself be uncomfortable here. We're experts at that. Two more breaths. And we'll slowly lift up. Move the bolster nearby, and we'll move the blocks out of the way. We're going to come to lie prone on your belly, but you will take the bolster or a blanket and put it right across the front of your hips and lie on it. It does wonders to relax you and activate the parasympathetic. So you're going to essentially be lying on your belly. Take the bolster, Put it smack so that the front of your hip bones is right atop, and you'll fold over towards the front. You can make a pillow with your hands. It feels strange to start. Make sure your back is comfortable and allow yourself to soften in back into the dark. Let the breath fill your back, fill your belly. A blanket would work well for this too, or any pillow. If you work in the ER or the OR or do codes and deliveries and things like that, this is a beautiful one to release before you go to bed. Breathe and fill every nook and cranny of the back body. And as you breathe, notice things shift and release. We'll be here for 7 more breaths. You may want to switch the stack of your hands, or if your head is turned one way, after one more breath, turn it the other. And notice with these last 4 breaths, if things already feel different. Bring your forehead back to center. Lift up your knees and curl your toes under. And you'll bring your hands by your chest and press up and back over the bolster. Come to hands and knees. We're going to come to pigeon pose here. If any of you cannot do pigeon, you will lie on your back and do a figure 4 instead. For those of you who want to do pigeon, I suggest a supported pigeon. You can have just a bolster, or you can have a bolster with blocks underneath it. Whatever feels best to you. I'm going to model the one with the blocks because it's a little more elaborate. You'll come to hands and knees over the bolster, and you'll slide your right foot between your left knee and the bolster. Your right knee will come to the right side of the mat. You'll bring those right toes a little farther forward, but all the way to the left side of the mat. Slide your left knee back and bring the bolster into where it lands and hug it. If you have a pigeon that you prefer, you can do that. If your knee does not like this, roll onto your back and do a figure 4. Right ankle on left knee, threading your hand around the left thigh and hugging it in. You'll get a similar release in the right hip. Pigeon is quite a release. So if you feel that, let it be. It's often quite an emotional release as well as a physical release. We'll be here for 10 breaths total. Let them be healing and full. If your head is turned to one side, turn it to the other side. If you need to do any adjustments, do those. Let yourself soften in. Let the thoughts that float in float out. Potentially draw your attention to your heart space if it needs somewhere to attend. Slowly begin to unwind, coming back up onto your hands, untangling the right leg. Lift up into an easy downward dog before you switch sides to walk the dog, release your hips, get rid of anything that's squished, needs a stretch. Stay in the dog as long as you wish. If anything needs any extra stretch or attention, move slowly and take your time. There is no rush and no urgency. When you feel ready, you can bring the left knee in front. Left knee comes to the left side of the mat. Left foot comes to the right. Slide your back knee back and you'll bring your bolster in towards you. You'll adjust your tower. It may look a little bit different on this side. Let it be different. And let your hip be different. Invite and allow the hip to let go. When we feel threatened or unsafe or insecure, we tend to grip in the hips. We may be nervous about not doing that. Adjust as needed. Huge breaths to invite the softening. If your head is turned one way, turn your gaze to the other, being kind to your neck. Send the breath like a care package to your nervous system. When you feel complete on this side, you'll bring your hands back by your chest and lift up. Untangle, come back to downward dog. Release and stretch whatever feels the need to stretch. Maybe do a lion's breath or a horse's breath while you're here. And you'll bend your knees, coming back down to a seat. We're going to shift over onto our back and come into a supported bridge. And you can do your supported bridge with a bolster under your sacrum or a block under your sacrum. I suggest the lowest height at the highest, the medium height, if you use a block. And you'll lie on your back, feet hips width. Lift your hips up and slide the bolster or the block right under your sacrum. And notice if you want the firmness of the block, or hardback book will also work for this, or softer bolster or pillow. And when you arrive with your hips a little high in the air on the bolster or the block, let yourself sink in. Letting the blood flow pour back into your heart space, into your head. Wiggle fingers and toes and resettle back in. As you're here, letting your heart shine forward, letting it fill and light up with a little bit of golden light, letting it see and be seen. We'll be here for 5 more wonderful breaths. Let the breath wrap your heart, give it a hug with the breath. If you wish and your back is okay with it, straight one leg long and notice your psoas. Let go a little bit here. See if you want to straight the other leg alongside and enjoy the belly stretch, the psoas release for another breath or so. If your low back pinches, bring one knee bent and the other. Bend one knee and then the other if you are not soles of the feet on the floor yet. And we'll bring one knee to 90 degrees. The shin is parallel to the sky. Lift your other leg up alongside. Bring the knees together, bring the shins together. Raise one foot to the sky and raise the other foot to the sky. You will be in a feet up the wall like position, but your hips are on the block or the bolster. Take a moment to find the triangle of the sacrum and be flat, be well supported. If your block is on the medium setting, you'll probably want to have lowered it to the lowest. Let this blood flow come back towards your heart and your head. Let it settle you. Wiggle toes. Perhaps flex your ankles or one at a time. And a big, huge inhale. And a long, smooth, easeful exhale. Lower one knee. Foot to the floor. Bend the other knee. Foot to the floor. Pause here in your supported bridge for one more breath. When you feel complete, lift your hips up, slide the bolster out, and let your hips land on the floor. Take a moment here to settle in. Notice the earth underneath you. Draw your knees into your chest and give them a hug. Lower head to the floor, rock side to side, massage your sacrum. Come to stillness. Come into a happy baby if that feels good to you. Let your back release. Press your knees to the floor, soles of the feet to the sky, and have a very gentle rock. One good for a newborn. And that feels complete. Release your hands. Bring your knees back together. Lower your feet to the floor. And we're going to come into a twist here. And I'm going to invite you, I know there's a lot of people who've done restorative with me in person, to choose your twist that you like. I am going to bring knees together, feet apart to the outer edge of the mat and cactus arms up above. Drop to the right. That releases the psoas in a lovely way. If you would like to release your hips, leave your hands by your side, pick your hips up, bring them 6 inches to the left, draw your knees in, and roll over to the right. Bring your right hand to the left thigh and stretch your left arm out to a T. Choose whichever one feels better to you. If you wish to extend the top leg, if you're in the formal twist, you could do that. You can also put a bolster between your knees. Let your body decide what feels best. Remember to breathe. Wherever you are, attend to your heart. If your head is turned to one side, bring it back to center. And wherever you are, bring your knees back to center. Even out your sacrum here. Have a little rock. Undo your shoulders. And we'll switch to the other side. So either knock-kneed, drop your knees to the left and cactus arms, or you will pick up your hips with your feet hips width, shift them 6 inches to the left, draw your knees in and roll onto the left hip. You may need to restack this time. Left hand comes to the right thigh and your right arm comes out to a T, and you might want to stretch the right leg out. You choose what feels best. It might be different on this side than it was on the other side. You don't have to do the same thing, as it turns out. Do what feels most nourishing, healing, and restorative to you. Choose the pose that allows you to release and let go. Reminder that we can't rescue anybody if we don't rescue ourselves. We can't take care of anybody if we don't take care of ourselves. The heart can't pump in systole if it doesn't fill fully in diastole. The sympathetic nervous system is, by definition, reactive. Finding a little more balance with rest can be amazing. Amazing for productivity, performance. Rest is not indulgent. It's productive, healthy, healing. Send the breath to any little tight spots. Melt in. Bring your head back to center if it's turned to one side. Take a big breath. Bring your knees back to center. Let your feet be hips width. Re-square your sacrum on the floor. Lower your hands back by your sides if they weren't. Lift up into an easy bridge, an active bridge here. Shimmy your shoulders under you. Release the back body. Lift your hips up high. Enjoy a little stretch in the back. Potentially rock side to side. Untuck your shoulders and lower down to the floor. Unkink your shoulders once again. Stretch your legs long. Reach your arms long above. Come into a delicious long stretch, reaching your arms as high above you and your toes as far in front. Walk your feet to the left. Left thumb and middle finger grab the right wrist. Come into a moon or banana. Walk everything back to center. Switch sides. Crescent moon or banana on the other side, left ankle atop right, right hand tugging on the left wrist. Untangle, come back to center, stretch long, one more big long stretch. Huge breath in and let it out. We are gonna make our way into Savasana here, final resting pose. In restorative and yin, we make it as cozy and delicious as possible. I recommend a block underneath your knees and a blanket over you. If you happen to have a eye pillow, use that.
And take a moment to settle in. If you want to do it without any props, do that, but ensure that you're warm. You will cool off as you're here. Before you settle in, take in a huge nourishing breath all the way in through your nose, through your chest, down through your belly, down through your legs, all the way to your toes. And an exhale from the toes all the way up your legs, through your belly, through your chest, and out your mouth. We'll do that one more time. A cleansing, nourishing, healing breath. And exhale from the toes all the way out as you let go, release, and settle in. Letting the earth beneath you hold you. Letting your breath take care of itself. Letting go of control of your muscles, your thoughts. Letting everything down to your pinky fingernail and your little toe nail soften. And rest for a few moments here. Nothing to do but relax, refill, restore, rejuvenate. Savasana. If you wish to stay longer, feel free. For those of you who feel complete, gently, slowly deepen your breath. Wiggle a finger and a toe. Add in a few more fingers and a few more toes. And invite a luxurious, nourishing, healing breath and a stretch in all directions in the most delicious, delightful way. Exhale and enjoy the letting go, the melting. And take your time to slowly make your way up to a comfortable seat. Find your sit bones. Align your spine. Let your heart be light and reach the crown of your head to the sky. Hands can rest lightly on your thighs. Take in a big, deep, collective breath together. And a smooth, long, even exhale. And a pause to notice here how you feel. Thank you all so much for practicing with me this evening. May you all be well. May you all be safe. May you all take rests and pauses and time to refill. And may we all move forward, seeing a little bit more with our hearts. The light in me honors and reflects the light in each and every one of you. Namaste.